Nilesh Shah, MD and CEO of Envision Capital, is our market master. He joins us now. Nilesh, thank you for waiting patiently. It's been one big ride, roller coaster ride in this market. What do you see as the move from here?
Well, I think from here it will really depend on how 16th May really plays out. I mean, clearly the exit polls have indicated that the NDA is set for a complete majority. Or almost a majority, and I think if it's if those expectations do get met, then you could see the market consolidating at these kind of levels, given the kind of up move which is there. If the polls or the actual outcome really surprises and the number goes more towards 300, then I think you are going to see a fresh round of euphoria in the marketplace, because that's a scenario which is not yet factored in. A scenario of 300, close to 300 seats for the NDA. If that were to happen, then you could actually see the market heading higher.
I was just going by the experience last time. Last time the CNN IBN poll fell short for the UPA majority by about 7-8%. So I stripped off 7-8% from their current 272 to 282 seats from the midpoint. They still come to 50 plus the NDA, even after you scream off 10%. If that is the kind of verdict you get, for me that looks like a conservative estimate or a fair estimate, not even conservative. Would you say the markets will be joyous, or will they sell off?
Well, I think if the number is below 250, I think there would be a sell-off, because that's something...
But above it might maintain its gains?
Yes. And I think, and I'll probably extend this a little more, that, if CNN IBN has learned it well, that in the past, they have been more optimistic and have overestimated. Maybe this time, it's quite possible that they could have built in some buffer in their estimates.
Actually, it is CSDS which does it. CNN IBN is only the broadcasting.
Sure. So I'm just saying is whatever the source is, if the source itself has to some extent already
learned from its mistakes.
I mean, exactly. If you've learned from history, then I think in that case it's quite possible that number could be a little bit better, realistic, if not optimistic. So I think if the number is around 270, give or take 5 seats, I think that should be fine with the markets. You could see the markets then consolidating, and the focus will really shift to
that kind of a cabinet. How would you have responded to it?
Yeah, I think it's not so much about those individuals, but I think the way Mr. Modi goes about forming the cabinet and forming the ministries. I mean, if you really look at Gujarat, he has a very truncated cabinet. Okay, it's a very relatively small cabinet. The line of responsibility is very clear, and that's a model which has really worked in Gujarat very well over the 10 or 12 years of his rule out there. So if he gets to more like 275 plus, who knows, it might just be a very truncated cabinet. It might just have one single person handling the entire infrastructure portfolio with the line of responsibility very clear, and then you could have individual technocrats as MOS.
That has been the market and some investors' wish. But from what Bhupen is saying, he's speaking separately of railways and aviation and things. That he didn't seem to be hinting towards what the market was expecting, one single infrastructure.
The only thing which I think is that he also mentioned about the allies getting some of the key infrastructure ministries. I just hope that does not happen.
You know what? Nitish was the railway minister in the previous NDA government, and if I can remember, in the last 10 ministries, that was the only minister who performed. Otherwise, we had Ramvilas Paswan, we had Mamta, we had Lalu Yadav. I mean, we had non-performing liabilities as ministers in railways, but actually the NDA railway minister performed.
Yeah, but probably at that point of time you did not have a hands-on prime minister. Okay, here I think the difference is that you're going to have a very hands-on prime minister, and I think what we really look forward to is essentially the experience which Mr. Modi has acquired over the years in terms of running the show. So I think his ability to push own BJP minister versus a minister who's part of an ally party or a political ally, I think are going to be very different. His ability to push a BJP minister is going to be far stronger versus being able to push an ally.
Stocks. Okay. What have you already bought? Or would you buy if you saw that 270 number? What would you buy?
No, I think if it is a 270 plus, I still think the trade would still be in favor of cyclicals. The trade would still be in favor of companies which will benefit out of infrastructure and investments which would happen in the infrastructure space. I clearly believe that's one area. Two is, I think, while banks still have problems of asset quality, they still have problems of margins and profitability, but it's quite possible that the entire PSU banking space could get re-rated, not on hopes of an overnight improvement in asset quality, but the way these PSU banks are run, governed and managed. And I think if the biggest priority, according to me, for the next government should be to reform the public sector banking space, where you can address a lot of softer issues in terms of composition of boards, the way the CMD's position is, whether you need an independent CEO, a lot of those other measures. I think that's one big area which should be under priority, and if that were to happen, then there is kind of a room from an upside point of view.
Okay.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Many global funds have still not participated in this up move. Do you think the market is still extremely undercommitted, and if we see a decisive mandate, we'll see big flows come in from FIIs?
Well, that looks to be the case. I think, of course, for global flows, one has to keep in mind one particular thing is that they may not be adequately positioned on India, but I think they've been adequately positioned on the erstwhile fragile five, because that's the space which has really been kind of rocking and moving up. And one has to really see whether now they basically look at India now as what the US was when Obama took over in 2009. That situation marked the lows for the US market in 2009, and then we've seen how the US markets have got re-rated. So if
do you see that as a phase for India now?
It's quite possible. I mean, this could very well be India's Obama moment. And if that be the case, then we could, and we're seeing a lot of people truly believe that there is a bull market which is kind of germinating. It's laying the foundation of a big bull market. So that could very well be the scenario over the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think that's something which is materializing over the next 3 to 5 months or 3 to 5 quarters. But from purely a global investor's perspective, he has to kind of take a call or take the leap of faith that is this India's Obama's moment. If he believes so, you're going to actually see lots of money flowing into India.
So how much do you think the market could re-rate from here? I mean, since yesterday we're getting a lot of targets. You know, Nomura has a 27,000 target on the Sensex, Merrill Lynch has another one. But what in your mind could be the year-end target, or say a 1 to 2 year target on the Sensex?
Well, I think over the next maybe 6 to 12 months, on the hope of an improvement, you could see this market going up maybe by another 5 to 10%. I would actually be very, very cautious about levels of, say, 25,000. I think out there the markets are no longer in a fair valuation zone. Markets would be trading towards the upper end of the past P multiple range. So I think one has to be very, very careful at that point of time. And then one has to really look out for individual sectors or individual stocks rather than taking a call on this on the market, because what happens is an uptrend. It's quite possible the Sensex Nifty may not rally much, but individual stocks and individual sectors could actually overextend themselves significantly. And I think that's clearly going to be the trade for the next 1 or 2 years.
Which will be the stocks on your radar if you see that 270 or nearabouts, you know, say a 250 plus number? What will you sell off? Because you have to also find the money.
Yeah, I think right now, if that were to happen, probably some of the expensive consumer names, I think that's one pocket you may want to sell off. The conventional HULs, ITCs, if one is owning those stocks, I think those are stocks to sell, because clearly spending on the consumers is slowing down. Margins are under pressure. Nestle's results clearly indicated that there are challenges for the sector. So some of the larger consumer names you want to sell out. I think on the other hand, stocks which have been underperforming, Reliance, Coal India, these were some of the stocks which are on the energy pack. That's again where Mr. Modi's had some really good experience and track record. I think those were some of the large caps, mega caps to bet on.
All right, Nilesh, out of time, but really not out of questions. We'll continue this conversation after we see that magical number.
Thank you
very much for being with us.